Good evening, everybody, and really sorry for the delay. We take great pride in starting on time, but we were overwhelmed by some technical glitch today. Today, being the last Thursday of the month, we have what was called Beyond Medicine, where we talk about little more than what we do in the normal clinical arena. So, today's topic is the combat medicine care as part of the Operation Pawan by the Indian Peacekeeping Force, and the speaker is retired Lt.Gen. Ravishankar, VSM. We are extremely thankful to you, sir, for agreeing to do this session. We are also equally proud to have Dr. Brigadier Samir Kumar to be one of the moderators for the session. Dr. Samir Kumar is the Clinical Director and Head of Cardiothoracic Surgery, Marengo Asia Hospital, Faridabad. He did his MBBS, MS, and MCH Cardiothoracic Surgery from the Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. He did his fellowship in Pediatric Cardiac Surgery from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, and the fellowship in Heart and Lung Transplant from Manchester. He has several publications to his credit and is a section editor for the Indian Journal of Cardiothoracic Surgery. He has rendered services to treat battle casualties in Jammu and Kashmir, Sierra Leone, and Sri Lanka. His areas of interest include heart transplantation, mechanical circulatory support, and ECMO, and he's a recipient of the Distinguished Seva Medal. Thank you, Sena Medal. Thank you so much, Brigadier Samir, for agreeing to join us.
Thank you, madam.
The other moderator is retired Captain S.V. Ramsundar. He's the head EHS and Security and Government Engagement India. He did his BA Economics from Madurai Kamaraj University, Diploma in Rail Transport Management, Certificate in Weapons Systems, Certificate course in Business Management for Defense Officers from the Indian Institute of Management, Indore. Captain Ramsundar has 6 years of experience in the Indian Army. He's a qualified military parachutist and was part of a special paratrooper unit. He has more than 25 years of experience in security, safety, HR, and admin across diverse industries. And he has a special passion for disaster management. He was part of the avalanche rescue operations in Jammu and Kashmir in 2005, and he played a big role in rescue and relief work during the 2015 floods in Chennai. Since Brigadier Samir Kumar knows General Ravishankar well, I'd request him to do the formal introductions of General Ravishankar. Over to you, sir.
Muted.
Sir, you're on mute, sir. Samir, sir, you're on mute.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, sir, you're on mute. We
Yes,
can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Vidya, for kind words. And it's indeed a privilege and honor to introduce a mentor, my mentor and mentor to many of my colleagues in armed forces, Lt.Gen. V. Ravishankar. And sir is a graduate from Maulana Azad Medical College, finished his MBBS in 1977, and thereafter in the next year itself, in 78, he joined armed forces and spent the next 38 years serving the nation. During the course of his journey, he served abroad in Gulf, in Oman, and also had the unique opportunity of serving as a surgeon with Indian Peacekeeping Force in Sri Lanka, about which we are going to hear today. Because, as Dr. Vidya said, I have been associated with sir for more than 2 decades. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he's a renowned cardiac surgeon, a revered person in his specialty, trained himself in Portland in America and spent some time in Perth in Australia to hone his skills. And as a cardiac surgeon, there was nothing he couldn't do. He could operate on complex congenital heart disease and all kinds of adult cardiac surgery. And there are many who share my view that his biggest contribution perhaps has been mentoring generations of cardiac surgeons in armed forces. He has held prestigious appointments of head of departments in both our Apex Hospital, which is in New Delhi Army Hospital, RNR, and our Alma Mater, which is in Pune, affiliated to FMC, now called Army Institute of Cardiothoracic Sciences. As Sir rose in his profession and he reached a higher rank, he had many administrative responsibilities. And finally, when he rose to the highest rank which the organization could offer, that was a 3-star journal, he was in charge of the entire HR and training of this organization. And let me tell you about this organization. It is 7,000 doctors plus equal number of nurses, maybe 50,000 paramedics. We have 100 static hospitals, 100 plus field hospitals. It's a mammoth organization. And along the way, he also commanded a very prestigious command hospital in Pune in the rank of Major. When he culminated his 38 years of service, his services to the nation were recognized and he was awarded the prestigious Vishish Seva Medal by the President of India. After 38 years of service, when he left in 2015, he moved on to the other side and he became a consultant and CEO at Leelavati Hospital in Mumbai, an appointment where he stayed on for close to a decade. And sir is currently involved in his medical practice as a consultant with Raheja Hospital in Mumbai. A bit about his very prestigious family. He comes from a very illustrious lineage, 2 generations of general officers. His father was a military general. He was a doctor. His younger brother rose to a rank of an admiral. The 2 of them made it to the same rank as their father. In fact, did better than him. So that's a very illustrious family we have. And true to the spirit of the code, sir has had an opportunity of serving in various combat zones. And as the French say, the raison d'etre, or the reason for being in what we call as military parlance, and that too especially for a surgeon, is to serve in a war zone and take care of the wounded soldiers. And sir has this unique opportunity in Sri Lanka. And now I will invite him to share this extraordinary experience of treating battle casualties in extremely challenging circumstances. General Ravishankar, sir.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening to everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Vidya as well as Dr. Patta for giving me this opportunity. I'm not sure if anybody has ever been able to present military medicine aspects in this forum. First of all, I'm going to say that whatever I'm going to give in my presentation is totally declassified now. This campaign happened 35 years back. So by this time, everything is declassified, it's in public domain, and nothing is confidential. Now, some of the participants in this meeting today would be aware of the campaign. However, those born in the latter part of the 20th century probably may not be fully aware. A statutory warning, some of the slides can be gut-wrenching, pun intended. You will find some of them revolting, but that is how it is when you look after, do the surgery in the war casualties. Why is it called a forgotten war? If you see this here, one reason is that it was a tragic campaign, if I may say so. Reason being, a campaign which took 32 months. We lost in my own capacity, it's been 35 years. Most of the memorabilia which I have accumulated in the last 37 years in the armed forces have just disappeared, except the last ones when I retired. However, I suddenly found an album in which it was captioned IPKF. Now, apparently, I had taken some photographs. Somebody had taken my camera and took some pictures of the operation. So that is the reason why I'm presenting a story, a true story, which has been woven in form of a PowerPoint presentation. It is not often in the armed forces medical services that we get an opportunity to take part in a war. War is never good, but sometimes it is inevitable. And when we as medical officers and surgeons get an opportunity, it gives us tremendous experience and by which we are able to educate the younger generation. This was a very unique situation where we were sent to another country to bring peace between the warring factions and their government. Now, we all know we do have UN missions all over the world. In Sierra Leone, where Brigadier Samir was there, Botswana, in Sudan, Congo, but it's never in such a large number, and neither do we take such large numbers of aircrafts, helicopters, tanks, artillery guns, which is what happened in IPKF. Now, what I'm going to tell you is totally personal experience. It is not given in the books, so there may be differing views on this. Now, as we proceed, let me tell you how the gunshots sound to you. Just have a look and hear. Now, these are called good sounds because it is meant for a 21 gun salute on special occasions for dignitaries. In Hindi, it is called 21 topon ki salami. Now, hear this.
Ravi sir, we are not getting the audio.
Why? Oh, you can't hear the audio?
No, sir. At least I didn't get it.
The others too?
No, sir, we can't hear, sir. We can't hear. You'll have to use the option of use
I'm just
computer
doing it.
audio.
Yeah, give
Yes,
me a
sir.
second.
Yes.
Yeah, audio not available.
Yeah. Just one. Okay, so we are just talking about the gunshots, good and bad. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audible.
Now, this is called good gunshots because it is a 21 gun salute meant for special occasions and for dignitaries. In Hindi, we call it 21 topon ki salami. Now, listen to this. Now, this is what is frightening. This is what you hear in the battlefield, in the terror attacks, and this is during my IPKF tenure. In the middle of the night, you could hear these sounds even from a distance, and you knew that casualties are about to come in big crops. Coming to a bit of the historical background, we all know in 1972, the name was changed from Ceylon to Sri Lanka. Many of us who've grown up hearing Binaka Geet Mala would know that it was Radio Ceylon and the baritone voice of Amin Sayani coming from Radio Ceylon. And I had to Google to find out why is it that from Radio Ceylon it was being broadcast. The reason apparently was they had very strong signals from that country, and that is how both in Tamil as well as in Hindi we got these channels. Buddhism became a dominant religion, and the Tamil minority, this is very important, was 18%, and this was subject to discrimination. The discrimination was actually in education, political representation, and in jobs. Therefore, the ethnic tension grew in 1976, and LTTE, Liberation of Tamil Tigers of Elam, emerged as a major rebel organization under Prabhakaran. In 1983, LTTE attacked the government personnel and the civilians, and the aim was to carve what is shown in the red in the map is what they wanted as a Tamil Elam. Elam means a separate state, and this is what they wanted in the northeast of Sri Lanka. India committed to provide military support in the form of IPKF. Now, this operation was titled Op Pawan, July 87 to March 90. It was a military operation conducted in Sri Lanka in 1987, and the mandate was to take over north and east with areas like very nice names: Bavunia, Jaffna, Kilinochi, Kankai Santurai, Trincomalee, Battikalova. These were the areas. The mandate given was to get these areas rid of the LTT. In 3 weeks, we, the IPKF, took over control of Jaffna Peninsula from LTT, something which the Sri Lankan army tried and failed. It came at a cost. 214 officers and soldiers were martyred in this short operation. We used heavy artillery, helicopter, gunships, tanks, and that is how we finally managed to take and capture the LTT headquarters in the library of the medical university, the university in Jaffna. Now, why did we call it Op Pawan? Now, every operation has got a code. It helps in logistics and in communication. Op Pawan is related to the epic Ramayana. We all know that it is closely related to Sri Lanka. Lord Hanuman is also known as Pawan Putra. That is the reason why it was named. Now, here's the man we were looking for, Velupalli Pillai Prabhakaran. Just have a look at his army. Young boys and girls, indoctrinated, highly motivated, couldn't care less for their life. They were fighters, they were suicide bombers. Prabhakaran is acknowledged to have created one of the most ruthless and sophisticated insurgencies in the modern era. With many of the tactics he pioneered is even today used globally. And the aftermath of this was the growth and development of LTT as a militant organization, which actually sought to form an independent Tamil state in the north and east of Sri Lanka in reaction to the oppression by the country's Tamil population by Sri Lankan government. Now, under his direction, the LTT undertook military campaign against the Sri Lankan government for more than 25 years. We all know that he was ultimately eliminated by the Sri Lankan forces, much later pulled out of his hideout and martyred along with his, I wouldn't say martyred, he was killed along with his family. It's a very interesting statement. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In fact, when we went to Sri Lanka, this is what we thought we'll do. We'll be an intermediary between the Sri Lankan army and the LTT and give a long-lasting peace without going to war. However, the aim was to disarm the militant groups, but unfortunately, IPKF was drawn into the war. LTT refused to disarm. It was quite a controversial operation because there were significant casualties on both sides. Now, Sun Tzu, if I pronounce correctly, was a Chinese strategist and philosopher somewhere in the 256 BCE. And he's best known for his book called The Art of War, which is even today followed by many military strategists. And his point was that one should know the strength and weakness of both your army as well as the enemy's army. And he said, target the weakness and not the strong points of the enemy. Now, my IPKF experience, I'll just run through some of these topics. We'll cover briefly how the Army Medical Services functions in war. It's a little different and it's a very well-oiled system, which I think some of you should know. Logistics issues were plenty. Since we were in another country, different currency, the first loss of special forces were airdropped on 12th of October. It was a Sikh regiment, and I won't go into the details of that, but unfortunately, the aim was to, as I said, take over the top LTT leaders in a quick commando operation, but it ended in a disaster because these people who were airdropped were literally massacred. And one of the reasons was that LTT had actually intercepted the transmissions of the IPKF, and we were like sitting ducks. I must tell you that these are the heavy-duty parachutes which can drop an entire field hospital by a para brigade, which Samir Kumar has been a part of. It has actually got two surgeons, two anesthetists. The whole thing can be para-dropped along with all vehicles, ambulances, and the hospital can be established in just mere 2 to 3 hours, fully functional. And how does the Army Medical Corps function during war? Medicals are geared for battle in land, air, and sea, but the tactics are different. Desert warfare is totally different game. I've had experience of working in Suratgarh and Ganganagar, where tanks are used because of the sand. The vehicles have got sand tires, And in fact, we had even modified some of the tanks to carry troops called APCs, armored personnel carriers, and even patients. The types of warfare, if you see, conventional warfare is one which we fight at the line of control by the foot soldiers, the infantry battalions. Desert warfare, jungle warfare is a little different because evacuation is a big issue. But what we were fighting in Sri Lanka was a guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare is a totally different ball game. It is characterized in the form of very small mobile groups using tactics like ambushes, sabotage, and raids to harass and delay and disrupt a larger conventional force. They go behind the enemy lines and attack, avoiding a direct contact. So this can result in a lot of injuries. Now, medical cover in a conventional warfare, I'll just cover this in the next slide also. There is something called a regimental aid post, which is at the line of control, which is at the farthest end at the point where the troops are fighting, and it has a medical officer. Now, he has something called BFNA, Battlefield Nursing Assistant. These are actually soldiers who are trained and are considered first responder. They've got the capabilities in crisis situation to help their buddies. That the injured are brought to the RAP. From there, they go to what is known as an advanced dressing station, which has also got more than one medical officers, a slightly higher echelon where better control of bleeding and wound care can be done. And then they are transferred to what is called the forward surgical center, which is where the surgeons were deployed like me. And from there, of course, they go to major hospitals, could be base hospital. You've all heard of 92 base hospital in Srinagar, one of the best run hospitals in this country, in the thick of battle all the time, in the thick of terrorism all the time. And then we have command hospital in every command, north, south, east, west, central, and of course, the flagship hospital in Delhi called the Army Hospital R&R. Now have a look at this. On the left side, you see the Army headquarters. There you have the Chief of Army Staff, who is a 4-star general. He heads the services. Today we have another 4-star general who is the Chief of Defense Services. We don't have a Field Marshal who would have been a 5-star general. Under him, he's got 6 operational commands. Now these are located north, south, east, west, central, and one in Jaipur, and one training command. What is important to note is under these commands, now these army commanders are very, very powerful. They actually work like Chief of Army Staff. They've got full liberty in the event of war to take whatever action they want. And we are more concerned with this lowest one, which is the section, platoon, the rifle companies, which are 4 in number, and a battalion. The battalion is the actual fighting force, which is where this RAP is located. If you can see here, from here, the patients are shifted by whatever means. Maybe there is a walking wounded post. They may go by returning transport or ambulance. This is the advanced dressing station, and this is what is called as the forward surgical center, which is at the division level. Now, in a guerrilla warfare, nothing works by textbook. Everything goes haywire. There is no defined battle area and peace area. So the issue comes, how do we collect the casualties? How do we calculate the numbers coming, and how do we manage? Our aim is only emergency surgery to save life and limb. It is not long-term management. For that, they are referred to the bigger hospitals. A look at the IPKF saga, which I said is 87 to 1990, 32 months was the total time. Initial sympathy with the LTT cadre. There was a peace accord signed by the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and the President of Sri Lanka, Jayawardene. LTT initially was friendly to us. Later they became enemies, and then they took revenge on the Indian Armed Forces. And that was the reason why our casualties suddenly became very high. I told you earlier, they're fighting for this Elam. This is the map of India, Sri Lanka, this red portion, and this is concentrated in the north and the east. If you see these areas, the hotspots for Jaffna and Bahunia, there may be some of the surgeons in this meeting, I'm not sure, but they are actually more experienced than the others because they had the highest concentration of casualties working day and night. Some of them had probably two teams. The other areas, hotspots were Trincomalee and Batticaloa. I put it in blue because these are the places I'm going to talk about. Started off with Batticaloa, we wound up and then moved north towards Trincomalee. Now, just to summarize the mandate given to by the Chief of Army Staff, it was to seize and destroy the LTT radio and TV channels, jam their communications. But then we were fighting with our hands tied behind. We were told not to use heavy weaponry. LTT, on the other hand, had heavily mined all the areas. I'll come to that. They were using something called claymore mines. They were using improvised explosive device called IED, which could be detonated from even a kilometer away. So initially, as I said, we were friends, later became enemies. The goal was to neutralize LTT and enforce disarmament, take Jaffna. But as I told you, because of our radio communication being leaked, it took 2 weeks with bitter battle and heavy casualties to wrest Jaffna. Overall, 1,200 soldiers, officers, and men killed, very high number for a campaign. More than 3,000 injured. It was close to 3,500. Now I'm going to briefly touch, since it's my experience, I'm going to touch about my interaction with IPKF casualties, starting right from Pune itself, where I was posted as a general surgeon. From there, I moved to Chennai to Sri Lanka, back to Chennai, and then moved onward to Shillong, which was my final destination. Now, Indian troops initially were only 30,000. Over a period of time, because of the casualties, it was increased to close to 100,000. That means 1 lakh troops. There was a fair amount of excitement going to Sri Lanka. We were going abroad, no passport, no visa. We had heard there were a lot of foreign goods available, VCRs, VCPs, Chinese toys, electronic goods, etc. But to that extent, we were actually going to thick of battle. Now, in Pune, I was posted at the Command Hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals. It is the flagship hospital of the Armed Forces Medical College. I was fortunate to command it much later. This is the present hospital. It was in a previous location next to this. And I was fortunate as a commandant to be part of the foundation stone laying ceremony with the then Defense Minister, Mr. Anthony. Interesting to note that this hospital has got 200 beds, the only hospital amongst 120 in the armed forces which can treat civilians. Out of the 200 beds which are given by Act of Parliament, 180 beds are in this and 20 are in the cardiothoracic sciences, which is across the road. This is a hospital called Artificial Limb Center, a very important part of the IPKF casualties treatment. Again, just across the road from Command Hospital. It's a beautiful center. It has got outpatient, inpatient. It has got an operation theater. They do some fantastic surgeries, including some of you must have heard Krukenberg operation, where they separate the radius and ulna and gives a pincer movement. So they look after our soldiers and also manage to treat some of the civilian patients. Now, while in Pune, I suddenly got a posting order. And posting orders don't come by name. These are field areas. It comes by a particular number. With that number, it's very difficult to find out where that unit is located. So with a lot of apprehension, I rang up the so-called field post office and asked them, I am posted here. They, of course, wanted my identity and where is it located. They only said it is somewhere in Sri Lanka. Where exactly, I just did not know. And then I got a movement order, as we call it in the army, to move to Chennai for further instructions where to go. These are all top secret. Nobody actually knows the deployment. And I'm not going to talk about the details of deployment either. At Chennai, this is the hospital. This is the new hospital. I was in the old location at St. Thomas Mount. Chennaites might know where it is. It's on the way to Meenambakam Airport. And our job there was, basically I was asked to report to the military hospital, though the field hospital was again located in a camp. It was in an open ground in Defense Colony in front of this hospital. Again, Chennaites would know where it is. But since being a surgeon, they said I should be working in the military hospital since a lot of casualties were coming. The first port of destination for casualties from Sri Lanka was Chennai. So the maximum casualties, whether it is Vavonia, Jaffna, Kilinochchi, Trincomalee, Batticaloa, they all would land in Chennai, and from there we would then reprioritize and sort of decide who goes where. Now, these are the AN-32, they are the workhorse of the defense services. Aircrafts are still in use. They are more than 35, 40 years old, Russian make, and they are excellent in the terms of short takeoff, short landing. Even without a proper runway, they can land. They can carry a maximum weight of 27 tons and fly at a speed of more than 500 kilometers an hour. So the capacity of this aircraft is passenger capacity of 42. If there are paratroopers, it's 42. Otherwise, it's 50. And the casualties who are inside, this is not actually an AN-32. This is a much bigger aircraft called Charlie 130. And it can carry 24 casualties inside. So our job was, I had to go to the airport once the flight lands, enter this aircraft, look at all the casualties, make sure they are stable. Some of them are very unstable. They had to be offloaded in the ambulance, taken to MHNI. Those who are doing well, check their pain management, the IV fluids, and for their onward journey, usually to Pune. Some of them went to Bangalore and Hyderabad also. While at Chennai, this is, you can see the casualties they've undergone. These are still, I've still not gone to Sri Lanka. I'm looking at the casualties after Pune, now in Chennai. Now, he was the head of the medical services of the entire area, came on a visit, and you can see these soldiers who are injured and being treated. Interesting to see these aircraft from inside. Most of these AN-32s during the campaign used to carry only cargo. There's no separate cargo hold. The main body of the aircraft takes the cargo, and they just put a net here, and there are few seats for us to sit on the sides. They're called bucket seats. Usually have seat belts. Sometimes they may not have also. We hold on to each other, and that's how we used to travel. And the action begins. Within 24 hours, I was given notice to move to Sri Lanka, and I was told I was to go to Batticaloa. I was handed over this weapon. It's a 9mm carbine machine gun. Normally, officers are given a pistol, but at that stage, we were all given this, along with this magazine containing 20 bullets each. The problem is that one has to be very careful, and the security is the most important thing. If you lose it, you know what happens. Even if one bullet is fired, you have to account for it, and you have to give the shell casing. But yes, this was the only security for us in a war-torn area. Now, there is a priority for all air travel for surgeon and anesthetist, but somehow I couldn't get a flight, and the surgeon in particular wanted to go on leave. So I was moved by a ship called MV Akbar. It is one of the civilian ships. And I'll come to later. And those were the era when there were no phones, communication was difficult. And I had moved with my family. So what they did was immediately gave a separated family accommodation at a place called Nandanam on Mount Road, and also give a telephone connection. That is the best part of this thing, so that communication could be maintained with the family. This was for everybody. Now, very important part is the logistics. There was nothing available locally. The only thing which we procured was water. Everything from salt to all our food items to petrol, diesel, kerosene, everything had to be imported from India. Now, this water also, there are water points. Obviously, we had to purify it there. LTT was extra smart. They were poisoning these water points, and we had some serious issues. So then we became wiser. We started guarding them more securely. And you all would have heard of Horrocks apparatus, how to find out the residual chlorine. Those were the things done by the preventive medicine specialists. And this was the only thing procured locally. Everything else was imported from India. A very interesting topic, MOH. Anybody would have thought this is Ministry of Health. But in the defense services, this is a standard abbreviation for meat on hoof. This is meat and this is hoof. Now, why is it called meat on hoof? Because in a place like in war-torn areas, you cannot actually slaughter animals and send the meat because there is no way that you're going to preserve it. There are no deep freezers. Fridge was a luxury. Most of us were on generators. So these were the only things which were alive and sent there. Now, why I'm mentioning this is in this AN-32, they would pack these animals in this area, put a camouflage on that, and make us sit in this area. I happen to travel with these. They were my co-passengers. They don't have seat belts. And during takeoff and landing, it is amazing to see how they shriek and bleat and fall on each other. And we were only worried that the net should not tear and all of them should fall on us. This was an experience, unless you travel in such a aircraft, one can never experience it. As you can see, this is meat on hoof. Once we get to the camp, they're let loose, and this is the camp area. Now let's come to the crux of the whole operation. Duties at Batticaloa Trincomalee Field Hospital were set up. First 3 months I was in Batticaloa, later on moved to Trincomalee. Now we are taught that how to scout for setting up a field hospital or any medical establishment. This is taught to us in Lucknow when we joined the army. We look for any abandoned buildings. We look for schools, churches, any religious spots, schools, and try to make the best use of that. Otherwise, it's a makeshift OT in tents. Casualties don't come single, they come in mass, and there is no time. They can come in the daytime. Usually they come past midnight when you're deep asleep and everybody is woken up. And remember that we were a single team. This is my anesthetist and this is me. This is a small operation team which is located there. And we move on to the field hospital. This is the ward of the hospital in Batticaloa. There is something called a lull period in battle between the casualties coming in, between the operations. We are waiting. I'm there with the anesthetist and the medical officer. As you can see, we are in uniform because unlike the hospitals today, where you come to the hospital in an OT rig and go back in the same, we are not allowed to do all that in a field hospital. Now, this is the hospital in Trincomalee. This is my classmate who's attending this, Colonel Ravjot Singh, my medical officer with me. This is my anesthetist. Unfortunately, he's no more. And this is the team in Batticaloa with the anesthetist. And here, the OT was in a building separately. And this place, it was in one building, OT, ward, ICU, everything in one. So the casualties start coming in. They come in stretchers. Incidentally, this is a enemy soldier. He is a LTT patient. And you can see that we straight away take him into the OT. Now, principles of war surgery. We have highly mobile forward surgical facilities, and the aim is to preserve limb and life and eyesight. Why I'm saying is we actually had a lot of casualties who lost their limbs, mostly lower limbs, a lot of amputations, upper limbs. I'll show you some pictures. And quite a few lost their eyesight because of blast injuries. Many lost both their eyes. Many lost their eyes and both lower limbs. I've seen such patients also. Aim is to control hemorrhage, excise wounds, antibiotics, delayed wound closure, which is standard. Now, damage control surgery. This is a very important part. If you have something like a liver injury, the patient straight away, and the patient is in hypovolemic shock, you straight away take the patient into the operation theater and start to resuscitate and manage his bleeding. We all know there is a lethal triad of hypothermia, acidosis, coagulopathy, which sets in massive trauma and prolonged surgery. So the aim is to do a quick surgery, bring them out, and start treating the other casualties. That was the way how we went about it. And one of the reasons we do all this is maximum return of injured soldiers back into combat. That is the aim of the medical services. What are the challenges? An important point. Many of the patients require blood. They've bled a lot. Where do we get the blood from? We don't have a blood bank. We do have a lab assistant who does the blood grouping and cross matching, just the very basic. So our own soldiers, we have the unit bringing them. We have the soldiers. We check the blood group. The problem came with enemy casualties. I don't know the experience of others. Our soldiers, they never say no to anything, but they were reluctant to donate blood to an enemy who fought them, who killed many of our own soldiers. So what we did was we had already caught quite a few of these LTT people in different prison holds. So we sent our vehicles, brought them, and actually forced them to give blood. And that is how we operated on. We did operate on quite a few casualties, which, as per Geneva Convention, we are supposed to do. Only life and limb saving surgery, a very difficult decision to sacrifice far gone cases. It's very sad. You see a patient is very seriously injured, but you know the chances of survival are low. You're going to spend 4 to 6 hours, which can be futile. Might as well operate. That is what is called priority. Operate on people whom you might be able to save, maybe 2, 3 surgeries. Sterilization of instruments. Um, the older lot like us would know what is this. Primus stove. It's based on kerosene. I was Googling to find it's available on Amazon for 15 to 20,000 now. Can you imagine the cost? Anyway, this was a lifesaver because electricity, we were on generator, but we didn't have autoclaves and all. We used to autoclave in this. We had 2 of them, steam sterilizers. And this is how by rotation we could operate continuously day and night, depending on the number of casualties. The injuries were maximum musculoskeletal, eye injuries. And most of the injuries were from these improvised explosive device called IED, gunshot wounds, shrapnel, and spinal cord injuries. And most of them, as I said, were due to claymore mines. Now, what are these claymore mines? LTT was very adept, very intelligent, very cunning. They manufactured their own mines. They're very crude, full of rusted nails, nuts, bolts, 600 of them, pellets. They would pack into one mine and place it in all the approach roads. And they're used to, basically in ambushes, to inflict the maximum injuries and disrupt the IPKF's advance. This single weapon with other explosives was the cause of major injuries and maybe our struggle and call for an ultimate withdrawal. And we were also told not to use very heavy weaponry on these people. One of the reasons why we had heavy casualties is on the lighter side, our soldiers were called BD Mamas, BIDI. BD means cigarette, BD Mamas. And I could speak Tamil, so I spoke to some of these casualties and I asked them, why do you call them? Apparently, our soldiers, they would smoke a BD, throw it on the ground, extinguish the stub and move forward. And these guys would actually follow the track and know where exactly. And if it stopped suddenly, they would look up. Our soldiers would be sitting probably as snipers on top of a tree. Many of our soldiers got shot from below upwards also. I've seen those casualties. So we had upper limb injuries, we had fractures. This is an LTT patient, incidentally, a young boy who had an injury. And this is what I said, gut coming out. There is an entry wound, which is here. There is no exit wound. The bullet went through this, ripped off his stomach, damaged his colon, and got lodged in the retroperitoneum. If I remember, a right hemicolectomy had to be done. Viability of this gut was checked. It was a long operation, but ultimately he did survive, and we could send him forward to Chennai. This is the surgery. If you can see very carefully, the ubiquitous red corrugated rubber drain. That is all we had those days. And obviously, peritoneal contamination, this is what we do. By any stretch of imagination, this is not an ideal situation to operate, but this is the best that we could make of. And frankly, the other centers did a fantastic job. And I'm sure this was a similar situation in all those places. Look, have a look at this. This is how the injuries would come. They would come by dozens, completely shattered limb. And this is the same patient. Now, we wanted to do the dressing regularly. It was a problem. He had a fractured humerus. So it is just a kind of a brain wave. I took this Kramer wire, removed a couple of these horizontal bars, twisted it. And by putting this on the elbow, we could actually do the dressing without removing the POP. Incidentally, the field surgical centers also have a Humvee's knife. I did a skin grafting, and you can see it has taken up well. Now you can ask me why should I be doing skin grafting in these places? I wanted to know what do I do with this LTT casualty? Where do I send him? I cannot send him to Chennai. I cannot send him to Pune. Neither can I send him to Colombo straight away. Who would accept him? All local hospitals had shut down, totally shut down. They were small and big hospitals, but absolutely they were ghost towns. So I did a skin grafting. It took up well, and then transferred him by helicopter to Colombo. Our own casualties went by AN-32 to Chennai, which I showed you. Now, this is the sad part. What is the effort of saving a prisoner of war? The patient may end in this. I actually tried to find out from the higher formation and from Colombo, what are you going to do to him? Because I was interested. I mean, we struggled and saved his life, saved his limb, gave him a good skin graft. They just point blank said that we will execute him, we will hang him. Now, as per Geneva Convention, I'll just read out, it mandates that the wounded and sick enemy combatants be treated humanely and receive medical care regardless of their nationality or affiliation, and also not to be subjected to torture or inhumane treatment. Now, we were not responsible for this. We were just intermediaries between the Sri Lankan government and the enemy forces. But this is really unfortunate. This is what happened. Some personal challenges, how to keep the family informed. This is the telephone system we had. There were no mobiles, and communication was primitive. And in hindsight, it is primitive. That was the best at that time. And we had army lines. I would book a call to Chennai, and they would give 2 minutes was maximum you could speak. And as I said, they gave a telephone to all the families so we could talk. Now, there was a free market in Sri Lanka. There were some shops open. Free means not free by monetary, but freely available. That's about it. So, but the currency was a little different, and they're Sri Lankan rupees. So we could actually uh, change some of our Indian rupees, which was our salary going to the bank. Some percentage of it was converted into Sri Lankan currency, which we could use. What was available was VCRs, cameras, toys, but the dangers were LTT ambush, and we lost quite a few of our men, some doctors, including many officers, because I can say we were stupid enough to venture into the market, although we went with radio operator as well as security guard. The roads were mined, the jeeps were blown off, they were thrown 15, 20 feet into the sky and ended up in disaster. So the Sri Lankan rupees, 25% of our salary was given. The field post office people used to come to the island, and every month we would stand in a queue, take up the little money and utilize it in the local market. We came back alive. It's a different issue, but many of us unfortunately did not. Other challenges, they all look alike. After all, the Tamils are from the LTT and they speak only Tamil. I was the only person in this field hospital area who could speak Tamil, so I could interact with them. I became an interpreter most of the time. A word about this password. Now, we were in a war situation, so you can't just enter any unit in the night. There's something called a password, quite akin to what you use for logging into many of your things, but it's a little different. And since it's got a little humor, I'll just explain it to you. Every evening, these are confidential. A password is informed to the entire regiment or battalion or the hospital only for that night. If we venture out and we are challenged, we have to say that password. Now, password has got two components, A and B. Now, I'll say it in Hindi. Why I'm saying it is one of our medical specialists actually ventured out from our mess because he was invited into a neighboring camp area and he forgot the password. He did not take it and he was challenged by the guard. And the guard said in Hindi, "Thum kaun aata hai? Dost ya dushman?" If you understand, is it friend or foe? Obviously, the person is not going dushman. He's going to say dost. He says dost. He says dost hai to aage bad, haath upar kar, which means you have no weapon. पहचान के लिए आज का password. Now, like suppose the word is Hema Malini, that was often used. If he says Hema, The guard says, Malini, he says, those come in. Now, this officer forgot his password, and that guy cocked his rifle, and this officer literally panicked. He started shouting, and still the guard would not allow him. He called us and found out that he is part of us. He's a medical specialist. I won't take his name. He's alive and doing well. Now, the leave priority was for surgeons and anesthetists. We were given top priority to travel by air. And as I told you, the ships take a long time. Casualty evacuation was by AN-32, by ambulance train. I'll give you a sneak preview into this. This is one of the recent trains. We had 2 ambulance trains at that time. I, in fact, went to the Pune station while I was in command hospital to receive these casualties, enter the train. That was the first experience. And I saw the casualties and brought them. And they also have a very nice kitchen meant for all these people, all the casualties. It can take close to 200 patients in one full train. They also have a functioning operation theater if required. Some of the other issues, I was asked to treat some Air Force personnel. This is an Air Force unit. If you can read, it's a Sri Lankan Air Force base. He's an Air Force officer, the medical specialist, and myself. And with permission, I was asked to operate on them. The reason being, all local hospitals had stopped. Sri Lankan Army did not have any surgeons, any field hospital, although they were manning this Air Force base, which is very important in Trincomalee. Now, on the lighter side, we had an officer's mess, and incidentally, a lady doctor was posted, husband-wife team. This was the guard. This is how the place where we were staying. And this is also for the men playing tambola under our supervision. And why I'm showing this is, if you see this arrow, I suffered a fall playing badminton, fracture base of 5th metatarsal. I had to put the POP myself with the operating room assistant. Put in a walking heel. There was no replacement, thick of battle, and I continued to operate. I can tell you it's very difficult. It's easy to say. 4 hours, 5 hours after surgery, the leg gets swollen. You take an half an hour break, lift the leg and get back to surgery. But then I thought that, look, this is the time to get some experience. So I also volunteered after 2-3 days and just continued. This is a mess where you can see good food being served thanks to the AN-32s, which was supplying us fresh rations. This is the kind of vehicle we used to go out in the market. You can see the canopy is removed. There's a radio operator. There is a gun-toting man. They sit in this. But unfortunately, the moment this vehicle goes on a Claymore mine or an IED, it just explodes. This is with my anesthetist in one of the Buddhist temples, a beautiful harbor in Trincomalee. Trincomalee has got one of the most picturesque, largest natural harbor in the world. Its depth is large enough for all ships, all weather, and was of great use during the colonial era. That's what they say. Now we come to the last ship to sail from Sri Lanka. This is Tipu Sultan. There were 2 ships, MV Akbar, Tipu Sultan. This is known as Indian naval ship called INS Magar. Now, this was a landing ship tank. This ship could go up to the bank and offload tanks. And this is my commanding officer, unfortunately, no more. And we were shown into the ship because our soldiers were coming back in this. And these are actual photographs which I preserved. You can see we were actually leaving, de-inducted. Army had decided to withdraw. The government had decided to withdraw. You can see the casualties walking across this bridge. Some are going into the naval ships, some into the civilian ships, some by aircraft, some by helicopters, some by AN-32. Now, I was given the task, I was told that I have to establish an operation theater aboard this ship, one of the ships. The last ship was coming because other ships were sailing from other areas. And we were going from Trincomalee upwards, marrying up with them in the ocean. The reason was LTT was known to take part in guerrilla tactics. And we knew that they will try to harm the Indian soldiers. They'll try to kill us. They'll fire and cause maximum casualties. What do? We cannot leave any casualty. So we have to accept all of that. And in case we have to operate, we have to have a full functioning operation theater. And that is what we did We established it on board the ship. I had some pictures which I'll show you. This is the ethos of the armed forces. We leave no one behind. And it is because of this that the soldier who's fighting in the front line knows that behind him he's got his buddy, he's got his doctor, he's got his surgeon who will be there to save his life. And that is why he does not bother about his life. He only fights for his country. This is the last picture before we boarded the entire hospital team. If you look carefully, this commanding officer is here. I'm sitting here, this all my team there. We are waiting. Probably I am the most grim-faced here because I was a little worried about establishing an operation theater, and God forbid, if there are mass casualties, what would we do? This is my anesthetist. Quite happy. World War II vintage ambulances, they were the workforce for us. Excellent work. They are now been decommissioned. And you can see this is from my field ambulance, field hospital being loaded. These were the tanks actually used in the battle being loaded. And they look like World War II vintage stuff. This is the operation theater inside about this Tipu Sultan. I met the captain and asked him, does he have a OT? All ships have an OT. It is very small. The OT table is very small. The lights are not good. So I said I wanted something bigger. He straight away said, take the entire dining hall. Dining halls are huge. It can accommodate 300 people. Because MV Akbar and Tipu Sultan can take about 300 passengers. Incidentally, they are meant for Hajj pilgrimage. So excellent support from him, and we established a complete operation theater and made partitions for reception, pre-op, post-op. And you can see there's a X-ray machine here, there's a small laboratory, and that is how we managed. And then, of course, we started sailing. A lot of politics on arrival at Chennai. I don't want to touch into it. Suffice to say that the central government had to receive all of us because we were actually coming, the final team coming back. So they deputed Dr. Raja Ramana, who happened to be the scientific advisor to the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister at that time. This is the Trincomalee, a port city of the northeast coast of Sri Lanka, as I found in the internet today. This is not an actual picture, but this is how it would look when we all started sailing together. There were helicopters all around us to give us protection. Unfortunately, we lost no casualty. We had no casualty. We lost none of them, and we returned safe and sound. This is on arrival in Chennai. You can see the massive crowd. There was no place to berth. There were about 10 ships, one berth along the other. We had to cross one to the other. They still had the customs people because everybody carried VCRs, VCPs. Customs had a tough time. They just signed the papers. This is General Kalkat. Now, he was the commander-in-chief of the entire operations. In fact, I had an opportunity to travel with him in AN 32. And incidentally, when I sat next to him, he was given a sofa which was tethered to the aircraft with a small seat belt. Anyway, he was highly decorated by the government of India. He got something called Sarvottam Yuddha Seva Medal and many other awards. Unfortunately, died just 2 months back. Hats off to him, salute him for the work that he did. To summarize the IPKF saga, accord signed in July 1987, and many Tamil organizations, there were many of them, TOELF, EPLF, so many, they were not involved, so they refused this pact. The operation was launched exactly on 9th October, couple of months after July, and was named Pawan. Peace was dropped out of the peacekeeping deployment. 100,000 troops deployed. As I told you, I don't want to repeat. It was very sad. We lost so many. And after 25 years of civil war, it ended in 2009. Sri Lankan government finally officially declared victory over the rebels. This was the end, 18th May 2009. If you can read, it says megalomaniac terrorist. LTT Chief Prabhakaran dead. This was the finale to a terrorist who ruled over the island and created havoc. Now comes our last 10 days. We were in Chennai. We became low priority because we were off from Sri Lanka, again staying in St. Thomas Mount area. I would go every day to Royapuram. For the Chennaites, they know where it is. It is the yard where all these coaches are there requesting for a train, and we were supposed to go to Shillong, northeast sector. And usually these trains have one first class compartment for the officers and a kitchen car like this, meant for making all the meals, because it takes 10 days. It is not something which you don't have Vande Bharat those days. In any case, the special trains take a very long time. There are no telephones, and I was made something called an adjutant of the train. All other officers had taken leave and pushed off from Sri Lanka. The whole train was lines which were running outside. You saw those telephones. I had to be in communication with the guard, with the engine driver, with my Subedar major, and all that. Real fun and an experience which is very difficult to actually explain. What are the lessons learned? A soldier's duty is towards his country and his flag. Doctor's duty is to save lives, but not only our own. We are also governed by Geneva Convention for our enemies. War surgery is a different war game. This is an saying that soldiers win wars and generals win medals. What happens in this? The real-time heroes are usually forgotten along the way. This photograph nobody can forget. Even a child will know who he is. This is the man who terrorized Mumbai in the 26/11/2008 Mumbai terror attack, Ajmal Kasab. But who knows the man who actually captured him alive? Tukaram. He is a Mumbai police man who actually caught him, held him with his AK-47, took all the bullets. In spite of the barrel being red hot, he didn't let go of him, lost his life. Fortunately, Maharashtra government has made a memorial in his name, and he is remembered to this date. We remember our martyrs, that is, you all know. I'm just concluding with my journey of 37 years in the Army, Army Medical Corps. This is where the doctors work, and we serve under this emblem. And this was my last day in the service, 31st October 2015. By 12 o'clock, we have to get rid of our uniform. And it's a traditional farewell where they pull the jeep. You can see there are 3 stars on this flag. And this is a major general. All the officers pull. And this is the traditional way it is carried on till today. Just to thank my own family. This is my father, General Venkatraman, one of the first MBBS doctors of Madras Medical College and associate of Dr. B. Ramurthy, the noted neurosurgeon, awarded Vishasena Medal by the legendary Sam Manekshaw. He got it for 1971 war, where there were heavy firing. So he was in Poonch sector, Rajouri, Surankot, and he was ordered to build a complete operation theater and ward underground. In record time, it was built, and they managed to treat casualties as well as POKs. This is my brother, an admiral, being awarded by the president. My brother-in-law from the Air Force, Subramaniam. This is me, and this is my award. So this is a family which has served the nation in all 3 services: Army, Navy, Air Force. Thank you, Jai Hind. At this juncture, I must thank my good friend Hari Krishnan, who actually, whom I consulted about making this presentation, helped me a lot. My wife Uma, my children, and my sister Dr. Jayanti, who actually introduced me to this forum. I am grateful to all of them for standing like a pillar of strength in my journey in the armed forces.
Thank you, sir. Such a moving account of your experience. The thing that struck everyone is that you were looking like a young cinema hero in the whole picture. I mean, you stood out. And wonderful. It is now I'll ask Dr. Brigadier Samir to get it.
Ravi sir, I was spellbound listening to the whole story as it unfolded, and the organization is so grateful to you for serving the nation, and your experience of of serving the casualties actually sounds a note, or it strikes a chord, if I may say, with most of us who are very passionate about our primary role, which is to save our brethren when they are wounded at all costs. And I can see you did what you could with whatever resources you had, and with the sole aim of saving each and every life. I would like to add on something for the audience, because I understand most of them are from non-military background. I would add a few of my experiences to this. Incidentally, it so happened that you saw that newspaper cutting which Ravi Shankar sir showed, 18th of May or 19th of May 2019. That was the day I landed up in Sri Lanka to treat uh, Tamilians who were wounded in the last push for the battle, which was actually a massacre. And because there was so much of collateral damage that the Lankan hospitals were full of their own wounded people, and they frankly put their hands up and said, "If you care so much about these people, why don't you come and treat them?" So the government of the day sent a team from the army doctors, and we were disguised as NDRF. That time there was no NDRF. There was no National Disaster Relief Force. But because, and we were moved on a very short notice, the casualties would be evacuated by Red Cross across from places like Vavunia, which is where we were stationed. And we ended up treating a whole lot of these people who were just caught in the crossfire. And as you correctly said, war spares nobody, and unfortunately, there's a lot of collateral damage. In one of your ethos photographs, sir, you have shown a man carrying a wounded guy on his shoulder, and the credo which says, "We don't leave our men behind." I would like to point out to the audience that if you notice the color of that man's beret, it was maroon. And sir, I have a special affiliation with these troops, so I would like to mention a few things about them, because you also showed and you all spoke about airborne doctors, as they are called, Maroon Angels. So there is a special unit or specialized paramedics who are called Maroon Angels, and our organization, this Army Medical Corps, is very, very proud of them because they have a very illustrious past. This unit has done wonders in India and abroad. And in fact, even now, when you see India offering aid to other countries, be it recently it was in Myanmar, before that it was in Turkey or Nepal earthquake, we always see people wearing these maroon berets, and they are doctors. So they belong to a very special, one of a kind outfit called 60 Parafield Hospital, which are, so it's one of a kind in that. And incidentally, I mean, I must share this. The first parachutist in the Indian Army was a doctor, and it belonged to the same organization. And that happened in Korea, where these people served for 39 months. And let me share with you, they treated 20,000 people in Korea in those close to 4 years, and carried out 2,300 field surgeries. And the Indian government uh, awarded all the people who were there. They earned highest of the awards. Mahavir Chakras, which are reserved generally for fighting troops, were given to doctors. 2 doctors got Mahavir Chakras, 6 got V Chakras. These are gallantry awards. They were given to doctors and paramedics in Korea. And I can tell you, till date, every year, 50 years plus have gone by. Koreans have not forgotten. A delegation comes every year and visits them wherever they are stationed. I mean, that is the esteem to which this unit is held even now.
Fantastic.
That was once. I might add something about the military train thing. I think most of the audience here would find it little strange that we are evacuating casualties in military train. So, military trains have been, it's a bit of a colonial legacy, and Britishers used them way back in Afghan war. I did a little bit of research on this, so I can share that with you. It's very fascinating. Going back all the way to 1878 to 1880. And these were basically used to move wounded troops from forward areas who was now stable. They were used to shift them in masses to hospitals which were in the hinterland. And Indian Army has been doing this for a very, very long time. Before that, Britishers got their wounded soldiers in World War I and World War II by ship to Mumbai, from where they were again transported back into various hospitals. And we have used these military trains in all the wars which we have fought, be it all the wars with Pakistan or even with China. And I have seen myself, there was a time when you would struggle to put these casualties inside a train because the stretcher won't go in and turn. So we would take out the windows and put the casualties through the windows, because then you could push the stretcher straight in. But now the times have changed, ladies and gentlemen. I must share with you, these trains are now available in the country. They're used for military purposes as well as for civilian purposes. They are now state of the art. They have modular interior layouts. They have equipment which supports ALS. They have sterile surgical bays. They have bio toilets. They have facility for telemedicine workstations. They have electronic medical records. These things are available, and they are stationed in various parts of the country, in the north, in the east, and in the south as well. And they can be requisitioned on a just a 24 to 48-hour notice, be it a military purpose or be in the situation of a national disaster. Today, it's a national asset and it is available. That is all I would like to add. And lastly, my little experience in Sri Lanka, the mandate had changed by the time I reached. We had set up an OT in a containerized place which was given to us by Red Cross. So I had a 40-foot OT in which I made it was a 40-foot AC container with two powerful 2-ton ACs in which I had my operation theater. And we were treating mainly people who were wounded in the battle in the last few days. I also have this unique experience wherein once in Africa, I flew in a casualty for 36 hours. We stopped 5 times to refuel, and every time the aircraft would take off, the IV fluid would stop flowing as the aircraft went up. And so we caught up with all our IV fluid requirements when the aircraft landed, and we would push the fluid in. So all those kind of days are gone, but yes, they are memories. And as military surgeons, we have all done our bit in our days to save all these precious lives. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing your journey. It kept us spellbound, and I could relate to a lot of things which you shared with all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. Captain Ramsundar, to please come in.
Good evening, everyone. I know it's already late, and frankly speaking, I had requested Dr. Vidya that I'm very humbled, or rather dwarfed, to even be a part of this session. I was born the year when General was, commissioned, and Brigadier Samir is, and other officers who are there. They're so senior. It's too. It'll be like, in the military parlance, unworthy or unfit to even open my mouth. But then my 2 cents, generally, I've seen that, I having worked in the army and as medical, profession as it is, they both are very akin, and in 24/7, always, dealing with emergencies, and the kind of hierarchical regimen, the regimen of training is very similar. So when we see the doctors in the army, they are, like, they are double whammy. I mean, like, they can go to any extent. Like what Brigadier Samir said, the first paratrooper of the Indian Army was, Colonel A.G. Rangaraj Mahavir Chakra. So, I mean, it's a, there was a very, proud moment, and when he got this Mahavir Chakra in the Korean War. So we also need to understand, how this organization works. Say, for example, one just, incident from the 1971 war. There was an officer, later he rose to be the Major General Ian Cardozo. See, he had to cut his own leg during an operation with his own kukri, and then proceed again to fight. And he was the first, war wounded officer to command a battalion as the brigade. So if a person who's fighting is so, brave, the doctors are treating them even more braver. So, it is, highly infectious on both the sides, the enthusiasm. And when I was, trying to do a bit of, research, what I would talk, and I've heard that there were doctors in the Sri Lankan operation of Pawan, claiming that that no one who came onto his table had lost his life, or they had taken even other roles, not only just as medics, but also securing the perimeter. When the regular forces were not there, even manning the role of combat duties which came in the way. So they were not just doctors; they were actually soldiers who were, doctors. And I also, having worked in all these areas, and the improvisations, whatever they have been done. I read a lot, but if I show that presentation, what after General has, shown, it'll be too, puny. But anyway, let me just, try to, get past through that in a very, fast manner. Um, I'm probably will be repeating most of it. So most of it, like when I think General Ravishankar very aptly used the sound to make you understand, and also the jungle terrain. Most of the things, probably in the initial stage of operations, we did not even have maps when our forces reached there. So that was, kind of cooperation which or non-cooperation which we had from the Sri Lankan government. Makeshift facility, shortage of supplies, everything was covered, and also air evacuation risks. Even the helicopters were often targeted by the LTT fire, and there was a lot of brave medics and brave Air Force officers who had risked their lives to do all these operations. And the most important part was the emotional, the psychological train, witnessing the trauma. I mean, how and especially I think it is more on the medics, like what Sir was telling, hours together of surgery, and then when you see people lose their lives, and then the triage decisions, who to treat first and who could not be saved, and all those things, and also the multi-role demands, not only just the medical duties but also the other combat and help the secure the perimeters during operations. And like improvisation, jugaad is the word in the army. So like we are best at that. So we can see, like these are all I've taken from various books which have been authored by the army officers who have served in the Sri Lankan operations. So most of this have already been covered by General, so I don't have anything to repeat in them. And so this is the final slide that I had. And we have also had many personal stories where doctors have written to the families of the people who had deceased, who had martyred their life in the operation. And they had also the how the emotional psychological support it plays a very important role when we are there out in the field. When we see the the doctors, and we see the paramedic, that brings a lot of relief to us. Though I had a very brief stint in the army, but uh, been in the forward post, been with them, worked with them, they make a lot of difference. And they are no less soldiers, and they are actually more, I would say, to make us unite, and to make us win the war. Unlike what he said, we also have somebody who's having our backs. So we would never ever, feel, well, there is no jijak. I mean, we don't think twice, before stepping into any kind of risk, with our backs being guarded by such wonderful team. That's all I have. And thank you, sir. It has been my honor and privilege to be part of this session. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Ramsundar. Can I request Colonel Tyagi if he's there to unmute and comment? Colonel Tyagi? If then Colonel Kocher, if he's there.
Good evening. Thank you so much for organizing this webinar. I'm very happy that you have done that. Now, just to give you a background, we have a group called IPKF of Pawan. About 181 officers are there. And can you hear me? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. Now, we have a group of IPKF officers who are trying to preserve the legacy, and we have done various webinars on various aspects, but this medical thing is new. It's a great this thing. We have performed on Bharat Shakti and various other forums. We have also taken up with Army Headquarters for honoring the IPKF who were killed during Op Pawan. It is not materialized, but we are at it. You mentioned the name of certain doctors. Just let me add a few more. They are in our group. One is Captain Ashok Tyagi, like I think then Captain Tyagi. He did a lot of surgeries. He got an excellent reputation. Then Major Puri, later Brigadier Puri, he settled in Jaipur. Then one Captain Senapati, RMO of 8 Mahar, Karamveer PVC Battalion. Captain V.S. Sayyed, later Lieutenant General V.S. Sayyed, who was the commandant of the AMC College and Lucknow. Captain Ajit Vanur, Sena Medal. So these are few of the guys who are there on our group. Some are there, some have left. Now, we have authored two books, myself and Colonel Nair, B.R. Nair. One is, this is Valiant Deeds, Undying Memories. This has few accounts. And the second book we authored is Resurrecting the IPKF Legacy. Both are available on Amazon. Anyway, that is not the point. Point is almost 12 to 15 books our group guys have authored. And we are trying to get the Indian Army to declare a formal day of IPKF Remembrance Day. It's not happening. You and me know why it's not happening, so we leave it at that. Now, our reception was very poor in Chennai. You had the scientific advisor receiving you, but mostly they avoided. So in Delhi, with the IL-76 flights, we were well received in Delhi. So whatever it is. So many of the units, unfortunately, moved to Op Rakshak in Punjab, which had just raised its head. And 89, even in J&K it had started, and Punjab it had started. So you had mentioned about the aircraft AN-32, IL-76 was also used extensively. So that I just make a small mention. It was a testing ground for both the Akbar, that is the Mi-25, and even this IL-76, they had just been inducted. So those of you who want to join the group and contribute, I have messaged my number, and anyway I'm available with the coordinator also. Please to message me. I will put you in the group, and we generally discuss only the matters of Pawan and military matters. It's a very straightforward thing with no politics, nothing, and all that. That's all from my side, and I will try to take this forward and try to get you on Bharat Shakti. I'll speak to Brigadier Chatterjee, and if Ravishankar sir can come forward, then we can get a few doctors and maybe somebody else who has some connect there and do a program. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, sir. Can I request Major Rangan, if he's there in the audience, to unmute and talk about his experience in IPKF? Major Rangan. Kan Hari Krishnan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, this is me here. I just wanted to say that I was able to empathize with what Ravi said, because I spent 4 months in the thick of the battle in Bogunia, which is one of the tough areas. And in answer to one of the questions in the messages about PTSD, I must tell you this. We had two anesthesia assistants with us. One was an extremely talented chap. And then one day we had some casualties which included young people as well, young children. After that, he went seriously downhill, and it took us a bit of a time to find out what had happened. And then one day he was caught sniffing halothane, which is the anesthetic fluid that we used to use those days. And the reason was that he had recently been blessed with a child before moving to Pawan. And this had affected him so badly that he was not able to come to terms with the death of a child who reminded him of his own. So this is something that we tend not to really quite pay attention to. And the other thing I would like to say is about the amount of stress faced by the families themselves. There was a question about that as well. We didn't have telephones, as Ravi pointed out. These are the days when mobile phones are available now, even in Kashmir. Those days we had nothing. We could hardly get any lines through to our families, and they were always in a suspense. And when we finally returned home, it was a great surprise as well as a relief for them. So IPKF was one serious experience for all of us. And I don't think it's going to be easy for any of us who have been even remotely associated with it to ever forget what we all went through. But thankfully now things are a lot better, as Samir pointed out, in terms of the equipment and things that we have. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Major General Manavalan in the audience, if he is there, I request him to please come in. Dr. Ravjot Singh, you would like to say something? We've been on camera for quite a while. You can unmute and come in, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've been a class fellow of Ravishankar right from college days, and it was very fortunate that we got together in a single unit. And I was in charge of the advanced dressing station in Kalmunai, and later on moved over to the forward surgical center in Batiklo and Trincomalee. We had really interesting and knowledgeable interactions. I was there in Sri Lanka for about almost 2 years, just short of 2 years. It was a tough period, but well rewarded. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have pleasure in inviting Dr. Jayanti, my teacher and a very renowned gastroenterologist, to say a few words about our brother.
Dr. Patta for permitting my brother to speak. I never heard all this from him, so it was nice to listen to the story of his experience in Sri Lanka. He does not speak that often, but it was very interesting and everything was new to me. That's why I was just awestruck and I was listening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else who want to unmute and comment, please? Venkatesh, you had a lot of questions in the chat box. Would you unmute and ask?
Yes, sir. An excellent talk from sir, and our great gratitude for all the services they have rendered to the country. They have always been our saviors and defenders. So I have one question, sir. During COVID time, as civilian doctors, we found it extremely difficult to triage and to set right people in a proper way. So I was wondering, in establishing a field hospital in those days, I mean, how one actually orchestrates that, and how does these things go there, those things go here, and this team should do this, these teams should do that. How is it actually orchestrated? Can you throw some insights on that, sir?
Yeah, see, we all are taught what is triage and what are priorities. And casualties, like I said, never come in single. They come at very odd times. And when they come in big groups, we very quickly see the anesthetist plays a very important role. He is part of the team, and he and the surgeon go around all the casualties and decide which patient goes in first into the theater. As I said, if it is a no good case, I mean, no way he's going to survive, we might give him a look over. But otherwise, we try our best to treat the most serious cases first. We also have to see how long we are going to operate. We are a single team. Surgeries can take anything from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 hours, and which means that we are going to deprive many other casualties from the surgery. So the triage and priority is done immediately on arrival. We have tokens which we put on the patient so that the nursing assistant, the ambulance assistant, they all know when is he next in line for the operation theater. And then, of course, we have doctors with us, we have medical officers who are there to help us. And that is the only way we can do. I mean, the priorities and the triage is very straightforward. Early surgery, possible surgery, early resuscitation, immediate surgery, all that we know. But case to case, one has to see, and we do not differentiate between officers and men. Let me be very clear. All of them get the same priority. A sick man, a serious patient is a patient.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Colonel
sir.
Ashok Tyagi here.
Yes, sir. Please come in.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. In fact, I'm grateful to Ravi for taking me back to my Bavonia days. And I would say the best days, surgical days of my life were in Bavonia. I initially went on temporary duty in 1987, June, July, and by September, the barrage of casualties that I got, and I was just a budding surgeon. I really enjoyed my work. It is a double-sided thing because surgeon enjoying his work means somebody has to fall ill or has to be injured in war. But the best part came was when I was going out, the GOC asked me, son, would you like to be posted back? I said, sir, anybody, budding surgeon, would definitely love to be back over here. And sure enough, within 1 week, I got my posting back to Bavonia. Ravi has taken me back to those days. In Bavonia, we never had an opportunity of picnicking around or going to the market here and there. I have had many, many occasions of multiple casualties. And this is what I want to tell my budding surgeons. Please know your equipment. The field ambulance is designed for treating only 10 casualties, 2 priority 1, 2 priority 2, and 6 walking wounded. However, if we do little modifications and reduce the number of instruments on a trolley, you can do a lot of surgeries. My maximum number of surgeries in a day that patients came were 46, and it took me 72 hours of surgery with lot of orthostatic edema. I enjoyed my days, and Joe Manavalan was with me, and it was another factor that was blood. Our own troops would volunteer to donate blood because tomorrow they would be in that position. But blood for civilians, LTT, EPRLF, that was not coming. In fact, I had 7 occasions when I had to donate my own blood to start the surgery and get IP care patients in operation theatre and on their name demand more blood and give it to the LTT person to save life because a patient is a patient is a patient. If as per Geneva Convention, he is no longer an enemy once his arms and ammunitions are out of his hand. He is a patient. Wonderful days and wonderful evening that you have organized. I thank the organizers uh, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ravi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Didipya, Didipya is the ICU specialist from Chennai. Has some very pertinent questions to Dr. Ravishankar. Yeah, Didipya, please.
Yeah. So, thank you, sir. It was what work you did was wonderful, and even great was the way in which you narrated it. It was so enthralling, the whole presentation. So, kudos to you and all the others who participated in that Operation Pawan. Sir, and rightly said, sir, as treating physician, patients are a priority, whether they are your friend or your foe. It was very sad for us to see that in this recent uh, India versus Bangladesh conflict, where it was just not a war. Many people put up advertisements saying, doctors are saying, we will not treat patients from Bangladesh after they've come and sought appointment. I thought that was just a gimmick to attain more popularity on their own behalf and not anything to do. But my question here, sir, is you've talked about blood transfusions. I'm particularly interested in understanding the effect of fresh whole blood transfusion that you use in the battlefield versus the preserved component pack cells, competent therapy that we used in the civilian hospital. I for once think that the whole fresh blood actually raises the platelet counts better. And that's some evidence that we have. And I think the studies are more from Israel and other places. But here, there are many patients in whom there is refractory platelet dysfunction, and they don't respond to platelets. In those patients, a request for fresh whole blood, and that can't be even actually given as per the statutory requirements of our blood bank. So I just are wanting a comment on it.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
actually, today in the armed forces, we are able to get components even in the forward areas because they are able to send your FFP cryo, preserve it, and send it. But those days when we were working, there was no question of any component therapy. Fresh blood definitely has got a lot of advantages, but we are just doing cross matching. We really do not know any subtype. Is there going to be any reaction? When I started my cardiac surgery in the 90s, late 90s, yeah, we actually were not getting SDPs, and we would keep fresh donors, the relatives available. The moment we are coming off bypass, we would take their blood, donate, and straight away give after cross matching. Now that was the platelet that we wanted. Now in these battle casualties, platelets doesn't form a very important factor immediately. They're basically they're hypovolemic. They've lost a lot of blood. They're in hemorrhagic shock. They need whole blood. That is the main thing. The hemoglobin does fall. And component therapy is out of question in those areas. But today, any war, whether it is in J&K, in China sector, Pakistan, we have it. It's available. It goes up till the advanced dressing station. Samir can correct me.
Absolutely, sir. Now times have changed, and blood is available even in forward surgical centers and products as well. So it is product as it is not required because at that level you're only doing life and limb saving surgery. And as one moves in towards the chain of evacuation, all the other hospitals they have the entire blood and blood product range which is available.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeep Naidu from the Indian Navy, if he wants to unmute and come in. Dr. Sudeep, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can't see you though.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the video going.
So while he gets his video going, let me introduce Admiral Sudeep Naidu. He's a pioneer GI surgeon, one of the founding members of the liver transplant program in India. There you are, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Ravi, sir, wonderful talk. And I have a slightly different perspective of our Pawan, that is from the sea. I was PMO of INS Udaygiri, the flagship of the Eastern Fleet. And we would sail out from Vizag. And after the last refueling in Chennai, it was daily patrolling from KKS to Gaul and back. And trying to stop LTT, gun running, all those boats, trying to catch them at sea. By the way, they had their own navy. They had the Sea Tigers. And they used speedboats, and they would sort of try to ram you with cordite in them. And oddly enough, I was the designated marksman of my ship also. And, it was very boring sailing. The CO would actually turn the ship around on Sunday mornings, and we would come off Rameshwaram so that the sailors could watch that hot serial at that time, Ramayan. It was very much there. And I remember going ashore at Trincomalee. Ravi sir, you'll remember that very long jetty called Prima Jetty. It was the only flour mill of the Sri Lankan area. And I was very embarrassed because I didn't have casualties on board, but I had two sailors who turned with psychiatric disorders. And I remember taking them to Trinco, to the field hospital there, where the CTC team was there, Colonel George and all were there, and handing over those two chaps over there. Though, of course, when they found out that I had come from a ship which had recently come from Chennai, the next trip I had to carry a lot of cigarettes for all the army people there.
I've told you about BD Mamas.
Yes, sir. So these were interesting times. And Wonderful talk, sir,
Thank you.
from the Army point of view and the ops which you saw over there. Thank you so much for this evening.
Vidya, are you in a position to comment? Vidya is traveling by train to Mysore, and unfortunately, I don't know if she can be able to comment. Any other?
My signal is very patchy. I
Yeah.
have been listening. I mean, me and Arun Selvi are glued with our headphones. We've not missed anything, but signal is patchy, so I don't know how I'm sounding.
Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful evening it was. It's very, very moving. I wish all the civilian doctors get to hear your lecture some point of time, sir. I mean, it was so moving, and I didn't see any lady nurses in your contingent. The nursing person, women are generally not a part of combat teams, sir. But I didn't see any.
At that time, no.
None
They're
actually.
all males.
And
Great,
again, I should
different.
again mention that you look so handsome in that pictures. You weren't a cardiac surgeon by that time. You're a general surgeon.
I was a general surgeon.
You haven't done cardiac surgery by
No.
that
I
time.
hadn't. See, I forgot to mention there was one slide which said I had to do post-mortem. Now, what happened is normally casualties in the battle, we don't have to worry at all. We don't have to do any post-mortem. Now, this was a soldier who was on guard duty, he just collapsed and fell and died. Today, as a cardiac surgeon, I can give you 2, 3 reasons why it happened. That time I had no clue. Then they said you have to do a post-mortem. I had never done a post-mortem. I had probably seen it during my MBBS days. So, and I didn't want to do it in the OT. So I went to the nearest hospital. It was shut down, caught hold of the janitor. Janitors are the guys who are actually very experienced in this. So he opened it, and I can tell you with a precision, he took one knife scalpel from the suprasternal notch up till the pubic symphysis. One slash took out all the organs, then opened the skull, took out the brain, stitched it up with clockwork precision. I just sat there. And of course, I gave him a bottle of rum. That is all the currency I had at that time.
Patta, I think his wife Uma wants to say something.
Oh, welcome, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Excellent. To the entire team, I just wanted to say it's great serving this nation, and me being the wife, I feel very blessed and very humbled, and always salute to all the soldiers who are serving this country, and let this yeoman service keep going on. Thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation. Thanks, Brigadier Samir, and it's a great family. We are a family, right? And we feel really proud, and both my daughters, and we feel blessed, and Hari Krishnan is like a brother to me. He's always there for us, and thanks to you, Hari, and it's a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
I think that's the ultimate compliment Dr. Ravishankar can ever get. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for being there. And then at the outset, apologies for the confusion in the beginning that, we need to start a bit late and maybe with a little audience in that. But we had 70 plus glued to the lecture all through, and that speaks volumes. So thank you so much. And we hope to get you again on this platform.
Can I make one last comment, please?
Please.
I am ex-Flight Lieutenant Amod Borkar of the Air Force Medical Branch. I was also in Sri Lanka with the IPKF in 1986, probably one of the first few Air Force medical officers. I appreciate and salute General Ravishankar, Brigadier Samir, and the others who took active part in the operations at the field ambulances at various places. We were basically involved in casualty evacuation from. We were based at Jaffna Peninsula at the air base. The Air Force temporary air base was at the Jaffna Peninsula, but we had to do casualty evacuation to all the regions, Kanke Santurai, Batikala, Wavonia, with the Mi-18 helicopters. And as you know, we would never actually land on ground. We would always hover, and our Army Medical Corps personnel from the Army would quickly evacuate them into the helicopters, which we would fly to the Jaffna Air Base, and then onwards to, I think, Air Force Station Tambaram, and then on to Military Hospital Chennai, or wherever they were to be evacuated. It was a wonderful experience, worth serving, though I could not do much with respect to the medical treatment per se, but casualty evacuation is also important. And as you said, with the minimum equipment that we had a real tough time, because flying time was about half an hour to 45 minutes between any two locations. And it was always crowded like one of the city buses, where we had to handle them, place them on the floor, some on the seats, etc., etc. And I really appreciate the words which are said that we leave no one behind. We really did not leave anyone behind. I also had a small stint in a Me 25 helicopter gunship in that area. And I think that was also a wonderful experience. I don't know if there are any more Air Force medical officers who are in this crowd today who can share some of their experiences. I once again salute General Ravishankar, Brigadier Samir, and all the other Army Medical Corps people who are there in this group. Thank you.
Sir, if you permit, I would have only 3 points to make. One,
Yes,
a big salute to the Indian Air Force, as my friend just said, because towards the end, we started what was called air ambulance.
correct,
The Air Force medical officers were looking after the air ambulance. They would start the resuscitation process and hemostasis right in the air. And by the time they reached us, the patient was almost stable. Second,
correct.
very interesting point that nobody has brought out. Apart from the dangers and the risk of life, we every Sunday during the times for Ramayana and Mahabharat, there was not a single bullet that would be fired by either us or by LTT. All of us would be hooked onto our TV VCRs and watch the shows. Third point is my salute to the anesthetist people, because in war surgery, anesthesia is a challenging point. Every patient, every soldier eats his meal as if it is his last meal. And all those things that we say he should be on empty stomach before surgery done is all thrown to winds. People, I found then ketamine was the most friendly anesthesia, which would prevent intraoperative vomiting and would keep the hemostasis of the patient stable. These are my 3 points, and kudos to the anesthetist who were with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ritesh Goel wants to know a little more about airborne drops in Sri Lanka.
Uh, I think Samir can tell. Basically, what happened is the whole operations started with airborne heli operations. And as I showed you a picture, it may not have been the actual picture, uh, about 20 soldiers of Sikh regiment, Sikh Ally, were airdropped right into the Palali Air Base, which is in Jaffna. And their target was to straight away go in a commando operation, go right into the Jaffna University library, because we had homed on to their telecommunication system there. In any war, the first thing is to get rid of the I told you, LTT was targeting the radio, the chaps who were carrying the radio sets. Here also, we wanted to smash their communication system. Unfortunately, our own telecommunication system was intercepted, and as these people were being dropped, landing, they were shot, and the remaining part of the battalion, which was supposed to come, they were not dropped, they went back. That created a bit of a problem for the troops who were waiting in Chennai, about to be airlifted, because, it was a disaster in the making. So we had to change the whole strategy, and but the only way that we could enter that place was a heli drop operation at that time. But we lost a lot of people.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I think we are past 10 o'clock, and I mean, a big salute and thanks to Ravishankar, Brigadier Samir, and all others. And I mean, I mean, there are no words to thank you, sir, for bringing out all that what has happened in IPCAF. And I'm sure we'll meet once again, have another session on this. And this time I will assure you that there'll not be any confusion in the logging in so that we'll have more people. Thank you so much. And it's a very, very sort of moving day for all of us at Marvelous Medicine to listen to such a lecture we haven't listened before. Thank you, sir. Thanks once again. And till
Thank
we
you.
meet again for the next session of Marvelous Medicine next Thursday. Good night and thank you.